It is important to understand that, the long-lasting peace and the long perspective for Ukraine should be the membership in NATO.
Now, Donald Trump calls him very nice. Will Europeans think so when Sir Keir Starmer heads to Brussels? The Prime Minister is meeting the NATO Secretary-General today, followed by a catch-up with EU leaders. And there are big questions about the defence of Europe to discuss, as well as what the Prime Minister calls a reset of the relationship with the European Union. Well, let's speak now to Hanno, Pevkur, Estonia's Minister of Defence, who will be attending those meetings later. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, we know that there will be discussion today about what next for Ukraine. So I want to start by asking, do you expect to see an end to the war within the next few months? Is that realistic?
Well, for sure, Donald Trump and his administration will make a huge push to have this ceasefire at least, and then also the peace negotiations. But one thing we have to understand, what is very clear, that there should be no peace without Ukraine. So when the Ukrainians are not ready to negotiate, and of course to do that, they need to have the stronger position on the battlefield. Then we should not go into these negotiations, or also not to push Ukrainians into these negotiations, because it is very important how these peace negotiations start. And it is very important that Ukraine has the strong position, because otherwise it will be very, very difficult to have the just peace.
And part of those conditions will, of course, be what happens next and how to keep the peace between the two sides. There is a lot of talk about a peacekeeping force. Do you think that's something that the European Union must agree to in order for a deal to be successful?
It is important to understand that, the long-lasting peace and the long perspective for Ukraine should be the membership in NATO, because this is probably the only security guarantee which also is really long-lasting. But of course, we also understand that it's not very realistic in a very short term. So that means that during the ceasefire and during the peace negotiations, and even after the peace treaty, there should be some kind of let's say, a security guarantee. What that exactly will be depends from many indicators or many factors. One is how many forces Russia will keep in the close neighborhood of the battle line or the front line. And of course, that also will indicate how many forces Ukraine has to keep there, and what will be the role of the allies. And then will the allies also be there somehow? And will this just be as a symbolic mission with a few hundreds or a few thousands of forces, or it has to be a very strong presence? So there are many things to discuss.
And what's your view, though, on that? Because there is opposition to the idea of a peacekeeping force from countries like Germany, for example. And some say, well, if the EU were to station troops on that border and there were to be an exchange of fire, then that could draw Europe even further into a potential war. What's your view? What does that force have to look like? Is it hundreds? Is it thousands? Is it every EU nation? How would it work?
Well, I believe that we are too early to discuss that in this stage, because when we take all these preconditions, then we have to understand that there is a peace plan offered by Zelensky. And when we take the Zelensky's peace plan, then Russia is not ready to negotiate on these terms. So, and then of course we have to see that what kind of guarantee. It's not only about the allies' guarantees or the Ukraine actions. It is also very important that how Russia will approach this. And to be honest, today I believe that Putin is looking for the new steps and new options for him to move forward, because he sees that despite huge losses, he can still achieve new territories or go to the new territories. And so this is why I believe, we should keep the focus at the moment, how to strengthen the Ukraine military, that they could have better position on the battlefield, and if necessary also behind the negotiation table.
Would Estonia step up, though, if required?
Estonia has always said that we are with Ukraine, and we are helping them as not only as long as it takes, but as much as it takes. And we have said that if all the countries would contribute at least 0.25% of our GDP, what we are doing yearly, then this could have could have had a huge impact on the Ukraine's ability to fight and capabilities. So this would have brought, let's say, 2 times around more military aid to Ukraine. And if someone says that they have nothing to take from these stocks, then it's very easy to allocate some additional funds because Ukraine defense industry is ready to produce 2 times more as they are producing today.
So do you believe that nations that haven't stepped up and provided that 2.5% spending, that they failed Ukraine?
I believe that we can all do more, and many countries have done a lot. And of course, when we take the situation on the battlefield, then also the estimations or the evaluations are different in different countries, and also the approach how to help Ukraine. So Estonia, yes, has been giving a lot and has been in top 3 all the time when you talk about the contributions per capita. And of course, we are advocating a lot. So, but also we have said that this is not a race who is doing more, but it's a race for Ukrainian freedom. And this is why our message and my message has always been that yes, there is a possibility for all of us, including Estonia, to do more.
But, I mean, the conversation about how much countries spend on defence is a very live one. Donald Trump is suggesting that EU nations have not been spending enough for some time. I think overall, I'm right in saying Estonia spends 3.3% of GDP on defence. The UK spends just 2%. Is 2% enough for a country like the UK, do you think?
2% is not enough for anyone, and we have to understand that, or for everyone, because we have agreed the new regional plans, and now we are in a very close time to agree the new capability targets. And those capability targets, when you put these capabilities into the budget, then you understand that 2% is not enough. So when 2% is not enough, then of course, according to the countries, it might vary. But also Estonia is considering already today to move above 4%, maybe even to 5%. Because when we want to defend the alliance together, as it is foreseen also in NATO treaty, then we need to do more, then we need to acquire more capabilities, more ammunition, etc. So 2% is not enough to any country.
So how do you feel about Keir Starmer arriving in Brussels today? He wants to lead on this new defence pact. I mean, is he the right man for that job, given that the UK is not spending anywhere near what you think nations should be on defence?
Well, please to understand that I will not assess the domestic politics in Britain, but for sure Estonia and the UK have a very good bilateral cooperation on defence, and we have a very clear understanding. We have signed the 10-year roadmap for defence cooperation, and we rely on that. And then Britain has been a very strong ally for Estonia. But of course, we also understand that there is a defence review ongoing in Britain, and British government and British people have to decide how their army, how their defence forces will look in the future.
I mean, the Prime Minister is going to the EU today to try and reset the relationship with the European Union. Do you think people are ready to hear him? Are they going to listen?
Of course they will listen. He's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, so of course he will be taken very seriously. And of course I would like to also hear that there will be a very clear plan what is the British message to Europe, and of course we have to separate a bit the European Union UK relations and NATO relations. In NATO, UK is a very strong and trusted ally.
And just finally, I mean, Donald Trump is talking about economic measures, tariffs essentially, over allies, including Mexico and Canada. How concerning is that for the European Union?
Well, I do not believe and I do not see that different tariffs on the economy will somehow help our relations and advance these relations. I strongly believe in free economy, and I also believe that it is important to keep the good relations between Europe and America, and this helps also us to be stronger not only economically but also militarily.
Hanno Pevkur, Estonia's Minister of Defence, who will be attending those meetings today. Thank you for joining us on the programme.
Thank you very much.